And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Yes, I am back. Been on the road a lot this year between Rise of the Fourth Reich and Nefarious and then just the normal stuff that goes along with this gig. It's good to play a home game every now and then. Good to see you, Todd. Good to see you, Aaron. And of course, right after today, we're all going our separate ways for a long weekend.
Yes.
so enjoy it while you can. Even though, given our track record, you probably won't. Anyway, we are taking a long weekend, a little summer vacay before the grind of the most wonderful time of the year, the fall, and into the Christmas season begins. I don't know what you guys have planned. Amy and I are continuing our tour of Halls of Fame that we want to see. So we're going to Cleveland. That's right, Cleveland for vacation. But we're going to see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're going to go and check out the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton. And it just so happened that the weekend we picked, we didn't do this on purpose. It just so happened that the weekend we picked, our Tigers are actually in Cleveland this weekend. So Friday night, we're going to go over there. Got tickets right behind the Tiger dugout. Now, I could name 5 players.
I know.
And I mean, I can name like the entire lineup of the Detroit Tigers from 1983.
And all the teams in their division, too. That's how we rolled.
Yeah, from like 1983 to probably the end of the Cecil Fielder era.
Yeah.
And then they struggled again, and then I could tell you who the whole lineups were from like 2006 to 2013 when they were pretty much perennially good and in the playoffs. You know, I mean, when you had, your Max Scherzer was your third starter, basically.
Yeah.
That's a pitching staff. How we didn't win one World Series is beyond me, but that's my lament. So that's what we're doing. What do you guys have planned?
I'm heading down to Arkansas for the Razorbacks' first soccer game.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Very nice.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
Assuming the plague that's been making its way through our family doesn't hit me, we're going to go to the fair tomorrow. And then I've got it's just me and Ben for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Well, no offense, man, but keep your distance from me if that's the case. I mean, the last thing I want is whatever's going through your family just as I'm heading out of town. So you stay over there.
Okay.
Yeah, you stay over there. No offense. You'll be great over there. Absolutely great. Just you stay there.
Tremendous.
Yes, indeed. Coming up on today's show, and of course, none of this would be possible without friends like what we have over at Eden Pure with their Thunderstorm Air Purifier that gets rid of the strong odors in your home, anywhere from cooking to cigarette smoke, litter boxes, trash cans, even that mildew smell in the basement that won't go away. They can help you with that as well. It works within seconds to clear out the tough smells in any room because it's not an air freshener. It's a purifier. And there's no costly filters to ever replace out of your own pocket or even out of your own time. It's filterless technology and it works phenomenal. That's why they've sold over 350,000 units, thousands of 5-star reviews, and dozens of those 5-star reviews came from our own audience. You guys have loved this product since they came on board. So right now you can save $200 on the 3-pack for whole home protection. That's $200 for the 3-pack. When you go to EdenPureDeals.com/Steve, you get free shipping as well if you use the promo code Steve. Promo code Steve to get free shipping and the whole home 3-pack for under $200 at EdenPureDeals.com/Steve. You'll maybe notice it's a little quieter in here. It completely threw me off. I had just gotten used to all the white noise, but the HVAC unit has finally been replaced, Aaron.
Yeah, just randomly on, it was a Monday, got in here and heard footsteps on the roof. So this actually, in my opinion, this is actually a lot further ahead of schedule than what I was anticipating. I was anticipating maybe end of September.
That also means since the bees were in the old HVAC, we could be... Knock on Formica.
Why would you say this?
I won't say it then. I won't say it. I won't. But we have a new HVAC, so it's not 80 degrees with fans going in here any longer. We made it. So just in time, too. Did y'all see the weather next week?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a sweat block commercial next week for sure. Man, that's going to be well into the 90s. So we're going to need all the help we can get, and we did. So thank you for whomever was responsible for making that happen. I know, Aaron, you made yourself a pest. I know the audience appreciates it as well.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to hear me annoy you even more clearly than you had here for the last 4 to 6 weeks. All right. Buy, sell, or hold coming your way here at the bottom of the hour. Daniel Horowitz, the prophet of woe and lamentation, will be joining us in the final furlong of the show. But before we get there, Let's begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by What the Heck Are We Doing Here? You remember a couple of weeks ago when we had Lizzie Marbach from Ohio Right to Life on the show to talk about Issue 1 in Ohio's special election. By all accounts, she's one of the best activists in the state of Ohio. Well, yesterday, she had the unmitigated gall to tweet the following, quote, "There's no hope for any of us outside of having faith in Jesus Christ alone." Amen, sister. But then, Ohio GOP Congressman Max Miller, who brags in his bio on Twitter that he's been endorsed by President Donald J. Trump, comes in and quote tweets Lizzie saying this: "This is one of the most bigoted tweets I have ever seen. Delete it, Lizzie. Religious freedom in the United States applies to every religion. You have gone too far." Congressman Miller immediately and swiftly and thankfully got his digital ass handed to him, getting the ratio of all ratios, before apologizing for the tweet a few hours later, saying, quote, "I posted something earlier that conveyed a message I did not intend," end quote. The GOP's a frickin' joke, man. Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, with friends like these, who needs Democrats?
有这样的朋友，谁还需要民主党呢?
Maybe that's unfair to Democrats, because just how bad was this F-up from Congressman Miller? Communist squad member Elon Omar came in to Lizzie Marbach's defense and dunked on Miller as well. And then there's this. For the second time in the past 2 weeks, a Christian preacher has been arrested for preaching the gospel on a public sidewalk. Evangelist Mike Gulley was arrested Sunday while evangelizing at an art festival at the Potawatomi Park in South Bend, Indiana.
I don't know what an ordinance is.
I need the ordinance number, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to go across the street.
When you give me the ordinance number,
Okay, I'm going to ask you to go across the street or I'm going to arrest you for trespassing. You've been told more than 4 times
You're going to have to
leave
give
the
me
park.
the ordinance
Okay, I'll put it in my arrest report. You're under arrest. That's it.
Hey, take my camera. Take my camera.
Property, we cannot get this.
Step back. It's 25 feet from an emergency area. 25 feet. Thank you. 25 feet. 25 feet. Thank you.
Moving on, according to YouGov, only 27% of Republicans believe Donald Trump will ever be convicted of a crime. Overall, 42% of Americans believe he'll ever be convicted of one of these indictments. Only 12% of Republicans believe he'll spend any time incarcerated. 22% of Americans overall believe he'll ever spend time behind bars. And also new polling from the Associated Press finds 53% of Americans approve of the Justice Department indicting Donald Trump over his efforts to remain in office after losing the 2020 election. 35% of Americans have a favorable view of Trump, 62% unfavorable. Overall, Americans say that Trump's actions after the 2020 presidential election did more to threaten democracy than to defend it, 54% to 19%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was on Laura Ingram's show on Fox News last night, and he hit Trump for not draining the swamp when he had the chance.
Well, he had 3 years to fire Christopher Wray, and he didn't fire him. And remember, I went to the rallies in 2016, Laura. You remember them. Lock her up about holding Hillary accountable. And then 2 weeks after the election, he said, never mind that I said that, and let her off the hook. And so I think if you look at, and I give him credit, even though we're competing for the great things he did do, but one of the things he did not do was drain the swamp. I mean, the swamp got worse in his 4 years, and you had people like Wray, you had people in power who were not getting the job done. You got to take very swift action, and you got to make it happen.
A newly surfaced tweet from the great prevaricator Vivek Ramaswamy from back in 2022 during the fight over porn in Florida schools shows that he supports sex ed for 8-year-olds. Quote, Republicans should use more rhymes when naming their laws. Instead of don't say gay, they should have called it wait till 8. Wait until a kid turns 8 years old before public schools teach them about sex. That would have avoided a national fuss about nothing. Yikes. According to the New York Federal Reserve, household debt in the U.S. has reached a record $17.06 trillion. That's fine. Check out this tweet from the Associated Press. Years into the pandemic, the profound toll of COVID-19 infections on heart health is only beginning to emerge. Doctors are grappling with how to help.
Man, it's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Perfect use of that scene from a tremendous film. I just watched that recently for the first time in
Me too.
20 years.
Several months ago.
Sat down and watched it with my son and just blown away how good of a movie it is. And actually how more relevant it is now.
I know.
Than it was at the time it came out. It came out the year I graduated from high school is when it came out. So, Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at Bonner Private Wines. We have a special treat for you, a wine so rare that it sells out practically every time it's released, I should say. It's the Sinal Illogico from Bonner Private Wines. Their Malbec from it's a never before imported gem from deep in the Calaki Valley in Argentina. Breathtaking altitude of nearly 9,000 feet from the third highest vineyard in the world. That's where this wine is born. Highly rated, 91 points. No fining or filtration is done when producing it. That preserves its true natural taste. It boasts a staggering 10 times more resveratrol, has 93% less sugar than the bulk grocery store reds that you're buying. And Bonner Private Wines is the sole importer of this amazing Malbec, the only place where you can get it. So get it right now with a special deal exclusive for our listeners. BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve or viewers. BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve is where you can get this for 50% off and free shipping. You can't beat it. Bonner, BONNER, BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. To the montage we go, and I saw this thing with Liz Marbach last night, and I didn't know who the other guy was, and I thought maybe it was a troll or something, you know. I had no idea it was a member of Congress.
And by the way, Max Miller's wife is on the board of Ohio Right to Life.
To quote the great Carl Lewis, uh-oh. I mean, I just... The story speaks for itself. I mean, I don't know that you can lend it any more editorial flavor other than if you believe in the creed that Liz Marbach tweeted, then chances are, if you are registered to vote while believing that, you are a part of the number one reason Republicans have won elections anywhere in the United States for the last, well, basically since 1980. Because you would represent the largest segment of the GOP base. Now, it's not as large as it used to be because the share of people that believe in that creed isn't as large as it used to be, right? But it's still the largest faction of the GOP base. And, I mean, just to be defecated on like that by someone who would not hold that office without people like you, I mean, that's a snapshot of what the relationship has been like between us and the Republican Party for decades. And it's not going to get any better, actually. Because before, they hated us and couldn't say anything. Now that the church is in decline in America, and not coincidentally, America is in decline at the exact same time. See how those things go hand in hand. But now that the decline is on, they're going to be much more open about it. And you've seen that the last few years too. So this won't be an outlier. There will be more of this. I promise you that you have voted far more people into office who think like Max does than think like you do. I promise you. And they are very, very eager to show you this, just as the left is. Very eager. I mean, to me, religious freedom is a twofold transaction. Number one, I get to live out my faith and impact the public square with it. I'm not just a vote, now I'm a voice. That's number one. But number two, I mean, one of my best friends in this business that's going to be on this show here later today, he doesn't believe Jesus is Messiah. I do. I don't think there's hope for eternity outside of Christ. He doesn't. Neither one of us have been very shy about expressing that opinion publicly or to the other. And yet, we have the freedom to both debate that with one another in the public square, and then also, going back to my first factor, unite with each other to use the areas where we do agree to make a positive impact on the culture as a citizen. That's the meaning of it. That's the social compact. That's why we were given it in the first place. And I don't know why we thought it would last forever, that you could be in alliance with people who don't like you and just don't even agree with you on the fundamentals of civilization. And I know we kind of had no choice but to do this because the other side is an open hostility and frankly has been since the summer of love. So that's generational, and there's only two options for most people. But that's another sign that we are living in a post-Christian era. This is a post-Christian West. And you will no longer be given any benefits of the doubt because you're a Christian. And by the way, that also means on the other end, you need to stop giving benefits of the doubt to people because they have the right letter after their names. That relationship is over. I'm not saying not to vote for Max Martin because he's not a communist. I'm just saying understand what you're walking into here. Don't lie to yourself.
So, for example, just because you're a Republican, don't blindly knee-jerk say things like "back the blue" when there's so many examples of police officers who won't cite an ordinance to you.
I mean, this is the question. This is the conversation or the question that I asked Sohrab Ahmari yesterday.
Yes.
That we essentially need to reevaluate our orthodoxies. Because of orthodoxy, capital O, we need to reevaluate our small o orthodoxies, meaning how we live that orthodoxy out in this era. And we're going to have to live it out much more nimbly and flexibly, or flexible, I should say, much more nimbly and flexible than we had to in the past. The old alliances are gone now, and they're not coming back. Can I get a clarification? Because the gun is not on set, so I feel safe to ask this. Okay? So I will not get shot. What is our position on polls as a show? Do we acknowledge them? Do we not acknowledge them at all, given how broken the social compact is? Let me just tell you. I got polled by Trafalgar yesterday. Here's how. They just emailed me. I mean, I kind of hope there's a tighter screening process than that. You know what I'm saying? Just send me an email. You know what I'm saying? You're smiling. You're laughing. How do they know my kids don't have access to the email? You know what I mean? I mean, just...
They shouldn't even be polling somebody in the media.
I mean, well, that too. I got an email from Trafalgar to be polled by the Iowa caucus, just over email. And I've done polling. I know how hard it is. We're in this transient era right now. A decreasing number of people have phones, landlines. When you call them up and say, I'm with a poll, they'll often hang up on you. Same thing with the mobile phones. I get all of that. Which kind of, is, if anything, I might be of the position, let's just act like they don't exist moving forward. Because we are in an era of where the social compact is broken. And I just don't know who's being honest and who's not. Right or left, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. But we instead seem to be going with the position of we're just going to cherry pick the ones that affirm our narrative and ignore the ones that don't, right? So polls, okay? I noticed if you are, look at the polls, if that's you, I noticed you kind of missed that AP poll that Aaron pointed out was not particularly good for Trump. A majority of Americans are totally fine convicting him for leading apparently some form of an insurrection. That was as effective of an insurrection as Operation Warp Speed was. Okay, but nevertheless, some majority of Americans are fine saying he should be convicted for that. Is that now? Maybe we need to consult the right-wing media handbook here. When the poll does not give desired results, treat the audience like they are 4-year-olds and unskew the poll to give them the result that they would want. I mean, what are we doing? What do we know? I'm asking. This is me asking now you two for clarification. because it's in Aaron's montage. I was not anticipating even commenting on this. So what do we do?
This is a moment.
Can I get a ruling?
This is a moment.
Grab the gun. It's right behind you.
Because there.
Well, that should be a default setting for period. Just
grab the gun.
Comprehensively, just grab the gun. Yes.
Because of the degree of objectivity that you've long felt that polls were capable at times of bringing to a situation where narratives were running amok, you've been a poll fanboy. Not loosey-goosey, but you like what. All of them.
I like will study. I won't just like take them for hand to mouth. I'll go through internals and make sure they add up and do all that kind of stuff.
2015, coming in here sometimes, it's like day 4. We're going deep on the poll. I was like, oh my God, again. But we were. But for you,
Todd, the Catholic finally found a liturgy he'd had enough of. That's enough. That's enough. Tomorrow you're going to be doing them in Latin. It has to stop, Steve. This needs to stop. Yes, I hear you. Go ahead.
Don't we just need to assume that polls very much are like a lot of institutions that may have started off for good reasons, but now have to find a way to justify their existence? Because, listen, you're right. It's been getting harder and harder to do these things. None of these guys are just going to say it's, like, quite frankly, we're worse off with polls, which I think may be true. But so we're just going to shut this thing down. They're never going to do that.
I had a reporter sit where you're sitting in your chair, came in here about 2 months ago to have an off-the-record conversation with me with one of the most important corporate media outlets in America, an outlet everybody would know. And I'm not going to out him, okay, because it was an off-the-record conversation. And we both exchanged legit intel with one another from our respective sides, okay? Very adult conversation. I knew he was here with his agenda and he knew I was here with mine. And as long as we're evenly yoked where that's concerned, both human beings made in the image of God, let's chat. Yeah. We had a good talk. Okay. Here's one of the things. He sat right in your chair. Here's one of the things he told me. We have a clue if our polls are good. Most expensive thing we do as a media outlet. And we just, he said, frankly, he intimated that it was almost giving them too much credit to try to cook their polls. It's so hard to get responses. It's so hard to nail down the electorate. It's so hard to know if the person you're talking to is giving you a real answer, is even a real person, or will really act on the answer that later, when given the chance that they're currently giving you. He said, we have no idea. And it's the most expensive thing we do, and we have no idea. I mean, just look at the last couple of cycles. The mainstream polling was pretty accurate in 2022. Pretty much nailed the actual generic ballot for Republicans. It was completely way off in 2020. It was accurate in 2018. Completely way off in 2016. They were pretty accurate in 2012. Pretty accurate in 2008. And so, in fact, we did this at the time. Historically, they've actually been pretty accurate about horse racing. About the horse race aspect of politics. Two things. They tend to get the outcome right, and they tend to underestimate how strong a Republican wave will be in a strong Republican year. While picking, like, it might end up being a Republican +7 election, but they predicted it to be Republican +3. So they got it right. That's just they underestimated the magnitude. And that pretty much held firm for decades, actually. This is another thing since the Trump era. I mean, I have no idea. They were way wrong in 2016. They were way right in 2018. They were way wrong in 2020. They were right again in 2022. I mean, I'm Harvey Two-Face here, man, just flipping a coin. I don't know. So we probably need to have this conversation maybe off the air about how we decide to handle these going forward. Here's what I do know, though, going to the YouGov poll. I had a conversation today with somebody who's extremely smart. In fact, I went to him to get kind of the, hey, what am I missing? 411. That's how much I respect this guy's opinion. Okay. Guy knows what time it is. Staunch DeSantis supporter. Staunch DeSantis supporter, knows what time it is. I went to him looking for intel and info to fill in my blanks. Okay. And so we went back and we discussed back and forth where we thought things were at with the race, et cetera, et cetera. And I told him flat out, I mean, you probably heard me say on the show, I don't think Trump will be on the ballot. And that, in fact, I'm confident of that. And that is factoring into my overall analysis of this. I think he will be in prison or take a plea deal. I don't know what the percentages of those two things are, but I think I don't know I don't know where all this energy that they've generated in the legal process, how it just gets dissipated now that the pilot has been lit and the engine's revving. You see, I just don't know where this energy now goes, other than to its ultimate culmination and climax. And his response back to me was, oh, Trump wants this to happen because it's helping him with his fundraising, helping him with his polling. And by the way, I don't disagree with that to an extent. I don't think Donald Trump wanted to be indicted 4 times, including in a state where he can't get pardoned. I don't think he wanted that. Okay. But I came back to him and I said, and again, I respect this guy's opinion so much, I went to him to educate me. Okay. So understand, this is not, MAGA Cheese Puffs 14 on QAnon that's convinced Trump's been president the whole time and JFK is hanging out with Elvis at Burger King. That's not who this guy is. Okay. And I went back to him and I said, wow, you disagree. I asked him, I said, so where do you think all that legal energy is going to go? Where their energy? And then he said back to me, he goes, I guess I never thought about that. I said, Trump's not calling the shots. He's not in charge at all. They're driving this train. They're in complete and total control. This is their energy. They've generated it. This is their legal process. So he may want this for now because it's helping him. I don't know. I don't know what they say at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. But he's not the conductor of this. They are. This is their train. They own this thing from stem to stern, all the way to the caboose. Yeah. They're in total control. Trump is just along for a ride, man. So where is all this energy going to go? What are they going to do with these processes now that they're fully underway? And he's like, I hadn't even thought about that. And that made me think. If someone as smart and as astute as the guy I talked to this morning, who's not even, he's kind of like, hey, Trump is pretty good president. I'll vote for him. He's the nominee, but I don't think he could hold DeSantis a jockstrap. If that guy had not yet contemplated fully where the energy for all of this is truly coming from, and therefore where it will ultimately go. These are not people that show restraint. They show gay porn to your kindergartners. They put grown men with hairy nether regions who will twerk for your kids in what we used to call libraries that are now strip clubs. That's who's doing this. That's who's doing this. The idea that they're going to come this far and they're going to say, you know what, we don't want to risk an unwanted pregnancy, so we're going to pull out now. And you know what, you go home, wash yourself up. Our bad. You know, we're going back home to our wives and our kids. We didn't think this thing through. We're complete. No, guys, we're going all the way, guys, all the way here. And so to that YouGov poll, that might be a number I believe. If someone like the individual who's as smart as the guy I talked to today is still like, wow, I hadn't even thought about that. I think a lot of you have not thought about this. Where will all of that energy go? They're just going to pull out next July? They're going to put him on trial, then right when they're about to get guilty verdicts, they're going to be like, we'll see you in November. No. Help me. Am I wrong?
Oh, no. But it just goes to show people I don't know who you're talking about. I'm learning about this the same as the audience is. I do know one thing about this person. They're still way too comfortable. I don't use that as a pejorative. I'm just saying, like, folks, how do we...
If they're too comfortable, then everybody is.
Yeah.
I mean, this person would know. That's why I went to this person. They would know things. I want to be better educated. I want to better understand what's happening on the ground. This person would know. And even so, if at this level, if at this level, sort of this, is prevalent, then man, a lot of you are going to wake up one day here in January or February of next year, and your minds are going to go Michael Ironsides and scanners. They're going to explode.
Because they already do the same thing. Your example is perfect about porn in the schools. You're like, yeah, it's bad, but you know, I've got my life over here. It doesn't enrage you.
The irony is, the very thing that Trump probably needs to stay out of prison is for people to believe he could go to it. right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Everyone deals with pain from time to time, and it's one of the few guarantees we have, particularly if we're living a long life. So when that happens, confront it, because chances are it's from too much inflammation in your body. Get the all-natural anti-inflammatory known as Relief Factor. Drug-free, though it was created by physicians who can prescribe drugs. But just understand, Tylenol, ibuprofen, these things are blessings. But if you use them a lot, that can also put a lot of strain on other vital organs and functions in your body. That's why if there's a natural remedy, take advantage of it. Now, this may not work for you. We're not guaranteeing you anything. But we're so confident that it will, that we're offering you the 3-week quick start for just $20 at relieffactor.com. Why? Because over the years, Relief Factor has found about 70% of the people who take them up on this stick around long term because of the results they see in 3 weeks or less. So see if that might be you. The stiffness, the achiness, the soreness that just lingers and won't go away. Try to deal with it. $20. What do you have to lose for $20 to find out if you might be 70% odds you're going to be their next, given that history, their next success story? ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-4RELIEF. That's 800-4RELIEF. All right. I want to finish the conversation that we started because I think we're going to be gone for another 2 days. And I think it would be good to have this kind of ironed out, on lockdown. Maybe you should use a different word. Nailed down as a show how we're going to proceed from here. How do we want to handle polling? Aaron, I like what you suggested during the break. Repeat that for the audience.
So I'm out on any kind of primary polling until maybe December. I'm just out on it.
So they'll say 30 days out from the caucuses.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
That'd be December 15th.
I think national polls on specific issues and questions we can take in a case-by-case basis. That's why I threw in the YouGov poll. And this YouGov poll caught my eye because you'll notice we're on a downward trajectory amongst the general populace and Republicans on A, whether or not Donald Trump's ever going to be convicted of a crime, and B, whether he's ever going to serve time in prison. There are fewer people than in June that believe that, both at large and in the Republican Party, and that's why that caught my eye. So the more this goes on, the more indictments he racks up, the fewer people believe he's ever going to be convicted or serve time in prison, if this is correct.
All right, I want to come back to that talking point in a second. I want to make sure, because you're going to be the one holding the gun, literally. I want to make sure we're all on the same page about what we're going to do with polling moving forward as a show.
Well, I think polling is ostensibly a science, right? Well, yes.
Allegedly.
This is why you've done so much so that this is why you've done the deep dives you have on them. You've even gone deeper than a lot of people. You've taught people how these are supposed to work, the variables that are.
Go back and look at what I did on with Glenn during the last election. Everything I told you about these polls in the last election turned out to be true. Everything. I'm sorry, the 2020 election, the last presidential election. That there was no way they weren't accurate. They had Biden winning, but I went through their methodologies, the methodologies by which they had Biden winning, that he was going to win Wisconsin by 20 points or whatever one of them was. None of that turned out to be true. Now I said, hey, I don't know I don't know who will win the election. I just know if Biden wins, it won't look like what's in these polls. Their methodologies are that flawed at a baseline fundamental level. And when we got the actual election results in 2020 and compared them to, when we were fed the election results of 2020 and compared them to what the polls told us, that narrative leading in, I was right and the polls were wrong. They all completely fell on their face. It was a colossal failure as an industry.
Well, so what does this, if it's a science, what does this increasingly resemble? These pollsters still know they were taught the old school ways of polling, right? Just like the most of the doctors and the biologists still know that there's XY chromosomes in men and XX in women, right? But they'll tell you that there's 100 different genders. Well, pollsters are also under the oppression of the wisdom of the age.
I don't even buy the point of, well, if they're all saying the same thing, there must be truth. Well, they're all saying the same thing about 57 genders.
Right, so.
They're all saying the same thing about
this is
about climate change.
99% of scientists believe climate change. Yeah.
So
I just don't agree. I don't agree. I would have agreed with that like 5 years ago. But I don't know how it is possible to keep saying stuff like that now. Right. I mean, there are people I like and respect who are still saying stuff like that. Like I don't know why you would think that what you're talking about, captured institutions,
yes, that's
where
exactly
science is gone now. And remember the clip from the Utah governor from a few weeks ago we had.
Yeah.
So this guy went total creeper and was vetoing our gender mutilation bills last year. Remember this? Mm-hmm. And now he's on national TV like, swinging swords. Yeah. Okay? Well, why? What changed? He told you the answer. It became very obvious that these scientific institutions that you guys are consulting with me on are just all captured by politics. I can't trust their data. I can't trust their conclusions. So explain to me why they would capture all these scientific institutions with the intent of imposing an agenda. Do you guys see what YouTube is now doing?
Yeah.
YouTube's now thing is, well, hey, we're no longer gonna shadow ban you for questioning COVID narratives. Well, that's just great. 3 years too late. No, instead what we're going to do is we're just going to ban you if you dare question what the World Health Organization says. That's the second largest search engine on planet Earth, folks. Just literally told you we are captured by the World Health Organization. Just told you that. Whatever they say, that's what we're going to hold you accountable to. Second largest search engine, the largest video site on this planet, is completely and wholly now declared as a subsidiary of the World Health Organization. So you tell me, then, why all these institutions would say, for the sake of their political agendas, they'd capture the American Pediatric Association down to that level. Right. But then when it came to perceptions on how we vote and who we should vote for, that's all still on the up and up.
Exactly.
Come on. How could you possibly, and I'm saying this to some friends of mine, by the way, if you're listening right now, you know who you are. How can you possibly go on the air and say that to your audiences? How could you possibly say, well, somehow they built a moat around polling. What? And so they gave up on peer-reviewed studies. They gave up on data. They gave up on the Nuremberg Code. They gave up on the Hippocratic Oath. They gave up on every morsel of objectivity whatsoever. But somehow, when it comes to how you acquire power in America traditionally, the voting process, everything's still on the up and up. Come on, man. Come on.
Disney, Target, the NHL and NASCAR are lecturing you about LGBT issues. Enough people get captured, and then it's that elevator experiment. They just start weighing on you, and they're facing the other direction, and you're the normie in there, but you're looking around you, and you realize, I got to start twisting the other direction. Even if they're not ideological captured, you're just trying to survive. I'm a pollster. What else am I going to do? This is how the business is done now. So yeah, we should not be just pretending like it's 1990.
And that brings us back to the trend line, Aaron, that you cited. During the break, I saw a tweet our network account put out, or an X, or whatever we're calling them now. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, the man with the turn of phrase, who then can't be found on almost any issue you care about fighting for you. But he knows he doesn't have to. Quote, talking about the Trump indictments, this is the sort of thing that happens in countries whose Powerball jackpot is 387 chickens and a goat. Ha ha ha! Knee slapper, got him again! Own the libs! Breaking news. The prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia, was just so completely taken aback and stunned and just decimated by how she was leveled by this witticism and observation of the renowned Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, that she is now announcing what we all watched 48 hours ago. The whole thing's off. That's how this process works?
It is not.
No. See, here's what Senator Kennedy's doing. He's reading the polls, too. He sees only 12% of his own base actually thinks our opponents are serious. And so you know what he thinks? I don't have to be serious. In fact, you don't want me to be serious. You would penalize me for being serious. You just want a show. So as long as I go out there and say things like this happens in countries whose Powerball jackpot is 387 chickens and a goat, He can pass a global warming bill, as Daniel points out, that literally made air conditioning more expensive. No one will say a word. No one will say a word.
This is our Tropic Thunder conversation yesterday.
Yeah, we don't. It's not that John Kennedy is betraying us. Oh, gosh.
He
is us. I got into this business thinking he was betraying us. I found out, no, he is us. He's giving us what we want. We just want a show. We just want to go to rallies and chant lock her up. Like, we don't actually do it. We don't. They're not like us. They're not. Serious as a myocarditis causing heart attack. They are going to absolutely lock him up. They're going to absolutely put him into prison. And the fact that we're not taking it seriously means we put no serious pressure on people like John Kennedy to defund this, to do something about it. There's no pressure on them at all. Hell, Trump's not even asking for it, which to me, I'm just flabbergasted. I'm not even going to try to figure that out anymore. That's it. I got to let that go. I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's the weather, man.
I have no idea why. I mean, my temptation would be to put every amount of pressure on a guy that I got a job that isn't specifically empowered to help me, let alone not to make the demand at all. So Trump's not making the demand. None of his kids are out there publicly commenting, not making a demand. His attorneys aren't making this demand. His major MAGA influencers, including people I like and respect, nobody's making this demand. Frankly, the only two people I have seen make this demand are me and Daniel Horowitz. I've literally seen no one else make this demand. Have you seen anybody else make this demand?
I haven't.
It's the only thing, by the way, that will stop this, is to defund them. Nothing else will stop it. Nothing else. I mean, we're not going to have another president sworn in for 523 days. And that trend line of the more they do this, the more ruthlessly they pursue their agenda, the less we believe it is sincere. Did we not live through you can't go to church? It's non-essential. Did we not just live through here's the proper way to now walk through the aisles at Walmart?
Most of our side, believe that was all what had to happen, and they'd do it again. You know that. Did
we not just go through you can't have a job unless you are willing to take a experimental genetic serum that the head of CDC has already admitted on CNN doesn't actually work?
Most of our side's on their second, third booster.
I don't know. The irony of this is because we're not taking it seriously, we're putting no serious pressure on the people we elect to do their jobs. We're actually in a way, we're enabling his imprisonment. They see our lack of seriousness, so they're not worried about any rubber band effect. Like, they're not worried about any overreach because there's no opposition to this. The opposition to this is to put on a red hat, put a sign in your yard, and send $20 to Trump2024.com. That's not opposition. That's not opposition. We're not having an election right now. We're having a prosecution. Let me say that again. We're not having an election right now. We're having a prosecution. Your opinions are irrelevant of the next election. Be fortunate at this point, flip a coin, you'll have one. I just, in some respects, we're like the left who thought that all the evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse had clearly defended himself was just going to simply never be shown at a trial and never shown to a jury or a judge because we've memed him to death and we've condemned him enough on our channels that his lawyers will just not put up a credible defense. You know what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. And then when they did, what happened? Whole damn case fell apart. We're switched sides now. We're kind of like, they'll never do it. As they're doing the thing. Like, they're doing it. Like, they're arresting him. They're arraigning him. They're setting trial dates. You guys think they're just going to come back and say, on with the show? I'm flabbergasted at this. I am. And maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm the one that I'm just out of tune with my own audience. And I hate saying that. And that's something a host probably should never say publicly. But I've made a career out of saying things hosts should never say publicly. And look how it worked out. I don't understand why we think they're just going to cancel their own show. It's gaining audience. And there's no blowback because we're not seriously pushing back. The normies aren't even paying attention to this. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, they don't have to worry about overreaching and the normies come back and say, that's going way too far. They're not even paying attention because we're not paying attention. We're not taking it seriously. We're just going to tweet cross the Rubicon 500 more times today on various accounts and share that out and meme. I just, you tell me, where will all their energy go? They're driving this. This is their agenda. They're Casey Jones here driving that train high on cocaine. What's the next line? Casey, better watch your speed. This is all them. It's a one-act show, man. What is the incentive for them to stop? There would be no incentive unless there was meaningful opposition that would then get the attention of another group of people that would say, whoa, what is this? That's going way too far. Instead, we act as if this is not happening. Donald Trump is not in control of this on any level at all. Donald Trump could come out Monday and show 2 million mules. 2 million mules. And those 4 trials are just going on as if it never happened. He is in no control of this at all. There is no plan. He's truly the victim here. And we're acting like it's not happening. And in some respects, like I said yesterday, the branding of his invulnerability on the right is so strong that it's actually working now to his detriment. When the thing that would actually produce the result we all want, these people put down, defeated, and discredited, the very thing that would produce that result would require us taking them seriously, which we aren't. I'll let you guys close the hour out.
Such is the power of our bread and circuses, man. The Elie Wiesel's night is all the more powerful that it starts with people actually escaping from the concentration camps, and to tell them, people have already been displaced somewhat, tell them this is happening. They just didn't believe it. It was possible. This is who we are. Where would you yet be struck, Isaiah?
There are no good moments in history from failing to believe evil is willing to do what evil is willing to do.
Yes.
All right, back here with Hour 2 here on Blaze TV radio and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside Todders and Aaron McIntyre. Thank you for tuning in here. And let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Steve at stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me on Truth Social at Real Steve Deace there. DEACE is how to spell the last name. You can also, if you love the show and you're a podcast devotee, we appreciate you. We've now eclipsed over 9,000 reviews for the show. And the average review is 4.9 out of 5. That's incredible. So
kind of hard to do.
That is very hard to do. Thank you guys so very much. And you can leave your 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow. And again, thank you to all of you that have done that for us too. This part of the show brought to you by Jace Medical. Remember, they gave us the Jace case last year to make sure that venerable antibiotics like amoxicillin and doxycycline were available just in case of another emergency. And isn't it funny when these emergencies come around, it just so happens that what you need the most, it's just not available. It's suddenly dangerous. Now they want to make sure that doesn't happen to your existing medications. So you can get a 12-month backup supply of your existing medications. This is everything from heart health to diabetes, even mental health and more. When you go to jacemedical.com, JASE, jacemedical.com. This is a great idea just looking at our supply chain issues right now when it comes to meds. jacemedical.com. Enter the code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. Code DACE at checkout for a discount when you go to jacemedical.com. Again, discount code DACE at jacemedical.com. Let's get to it. Buy, sell, or hold, one of our more popular segments each week. We'll get through as many of your submissions here as we can. Whatever we have remaining, we will address in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Dace. That's blazetv.com/Dace. Go there today, become a subscriber for just $10 a month. Todd, you and I are going to buy this. We're going to sell this. Maybe even have a reason or 9 why we made the choice that we did. If at any point in time, however, you're bracing yourself.
Always.
Yes. If at any point in time...
This is, of course, part of my week, every single week, this moment, right now, here.
If at any point in time you choose to invoke the hold, then you have committed a mortal sin against the dude code by punking out. And as a result, you have to shadow Lindsey Graham on a Friday night.
Tell us how you really feel. Todd, you weren't super clear there a minute ago.
In this moment every week, I consider committing any number of other mortal sins just to deviate from this one.
All right, you have to figure out, you've got to find out for yourself. You have to see it with your own eyes, what Lindsey Graham's doing on a Friday night.
I will not.
Indeed. Let's go.
We'll begin with James Miller. The Trump campaign should replace the MAGA slogan with warp speed ahead.
Oh, boy.
Correct.
For those of you listening to the podcast, there's an image involved with this one.
Yikes. I mean, yikes.
Correct. Tough but fair.
I mean, he maintains it's like the greatest accomplishment of his presidency, so why isn't he doing that then? You know, if the vaccine and everything is great, and it absolutely was the greatest, it saved 100 million lives, why would you run for president believing you've saved 100 million lives? Why wouldn't that be like every Trump commercial? You ever notice that? I mean, I can't believe we're asking Trump to brag about an accomplishment more. If you truly believe you have saved 100 million lives, why isn't that your messaging? What better platform would you need to run for office again other than I've saved 100 million lives? Is there a better platform to run for office than I saved 100 million lives?
Maybe that's the Kraken he's going to release in his press conference coming up.
I mean, last time I was president, I saved 100 million lives, so you should make me president again. I mean, the number one requirement of any president is to keep the American people safe. Everybody has said that from the very beginning, right? Well, if it's true that you saved 100 million lives, then why wouldn't that be the number one reason you would ask people to vote for you? Strangely, they're not campaigning on this at all, actually. Weird. So I'll buy.
Next up, Richard Thought Criminal has this. The big picture or end goal around the Trump indictments on January 6th isn't really about Trump or his associates or even about the 2020 election. It's about ensuring we're too scared to publicly question any election going forward, no matter how ridiculous the outcome may be.
I think that's part of the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, our friend Julie Kelly has said this isn't about the 2020 election, the 2024 election. I agree with that. I agree with Mr. Thought Criminal's moment there too, and then I think it's also just don't ever underestimate just flat out retribution, primal levels of rage.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, this time 2015, they went all out to get this guy the nomination, thinking he was a clown, thinking he couldn't win. I mean, during the primary, I think it was either the New York Times or MRC, somebody did a study that found Trump received 60 times more coverage during the GOP primary than any other candidate. I remember coming back, I went to NRB for the Cruz campaign, and I was flying back from Nashville, where NRB was that year, National Religious Broadcasters, and I'm in the airport, and that was the day Chris Christie dropped out and endorsed Trump. And I'll never forget this. CNN played the entire rally of Trump's. Played the entire rally live. Then they did a roundtable where they discussed the rally, and then because this was during my 3-hour layover or delay in the wintertime flying, they then re-racked the rally and played it all again in its entirety. So they thought this guy was a clown. They thought they could beat him. Thought this was the best chance for cackling Hillary to win the presidency. And so they did whatever they could to elevate him. I remember Morning Joe. Morning Joe gave Trump a town hall. Just Trump. The night that on the Cruz campaign, we got our town hall in South Carolina. We were taking every campaign was taking turns with a town hall.
Yeah.
Morning Joe gave Trump an extra town hall and put it on exactly opposite my candidate's town hall. He got 2 of them, and got to counter program our guy. They went out of their way to get this guy the nomination, thinking he was a clown. They could beat him. People would never vote for him, and then he beat him. And it got really personal. So there is unbridled rage here. And they want to make an example. Remember, he was with them for many, many years. He was one of their favorites. They made him one of the most famous people in the world. And so I think that don't underestimate the factor of just how personal the rage against him is at the same time for daring to beat them. And then when he did beat him, wasn't as much as we needed, unfortunately, particularly when we needed it the most, starting March 16th of 2020. But he absolutely sided with people like us much more than they ever anticipated. Like one of the first acts as president was to remember the first interview he did in the White House. I think it was NBC News. An interview with the new president through the White House. That was the weekend. That was the week that March for Life was going to go on there. And Trump specifically mentioned the March for Life live on NBC News. First time it had ever gotten like any network coverage at all, like except for criticism. I think it's really personal too. I think the factors that you allude to and what we mentioned about, I think that's part of it. But never underestimate. It's personal. How dare you leave us and then represent them? It's a seething level of hatred on that level.
I think it's entirely possible this dynamic that you're describing is entirely because Trump is still a symbol, but Trump is not a threat. If he were a threat, I'm not sure if they would have the stones. If they really thought he was a threat, I'm not sure they'd have the stones to do what they're doing to him right now. But it's true, he's a symbol. It's like what I said yesterday. They see 62 million plus Oliver Anthonys when they look at Trump.
Yes.
And they hate Oliver Anthony.
Those are great dots you just connected right there. Absolutely. Right now, Oliver Anthony, we just tweeted out on the Blaze main account, 3 of the top 5 songs in America are Oliver Anthony songs, including Rich Man North of Richmond. Richmond is number 1 still. I mean, that's Taylor Swift stuff, guys. 3 of the top 5 songs in the country from one artist on the same album at the same time.
Nobody knew who he was this time last week.
That's right. That's Taylor Swift kind of stuff. That would be generating all kinds of media. It's like Oliver Anthony. Wrecked him, barely knew him. I promise you, though, they are going through every one of his social media accounts. Mm-hmm. Looking to see,
they already have.
Looking to see what stupid rap lyric he quoted when he was 15 to label him a racist. What's it called, Todd? It's a routine background.
Yes, routine background check.
Yes, I'm sure they're doing that. So
they already have.
They have no. Won't acknowledge his success, but by golly, they are combing through anything he has ever said online ever right now.
Yeah, I've already seen this a little bit, and his responses have been satisfactory, I would say.
Okay.
Just basically dismissing.
Yep.
Next up, we go to Sniper BBB. Ride Captain Ride by Bluey Image is the perfect encapsulation of conservative activists versus the silent majority today. This is from kind of your era. Is he onto something there?
That song is, dude, I was like breastfeeding when that song came out. So, I mean, I was like a baby. But I'm going to go with the analogy you made yesterday. I'm going to sell. I think the best analogy, and it's one that's more current, is Tropic Thunder. We are a dude playing another dude. That's what we are. We're patriots playing other patriots. Or conservatives playing other conservatives, playing other conservatives. That's what we're doing. We are randomly citing things previous generations wrote and did without actually writing them and never, almost ever doing them ourselves. That's what's going on. And
some of us are, I think it's Ben Stiller's character, just going the full.
Yes, all into it. That would probably be us. We basically went Colonel Kurtz. That's what Ben Stiller's character does. I mean, he goes Colonel Kurtz up the river, full apocalypse now, if you know Heart of Darkness and that story. That's what Stiller's character does, right? He completely immerses himself in it, right?
In his character.
Yes.
In the Simple Jack, I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of us are on the right are just a dude playing another dude.
Correct.
We're wearing Trump face, Reagan face, John Adams face, Thomas Jefferson face, Abraham Lincoln face, just quoting people we have no intent of following in their actual footsteps for.
Actually, I think we're Tom Cruise's character, but I digress.
Oh, that's what our show is?
Yeah.
Please don't let the Blaze management hear you say that. Go ahead.
Dan J says, on August 23rd, Donald Trump will turn himself into Georgia and then show up on the debate stage to milk all the attention and make it all about him.
Sure.
Okay. I don't care if he does. I mean, am I supposed to? Why would I be against that? I mean, I'm okay with it if he does it.
Yeah, that's not out of character. No.
Yeah, I'm totally okay if he does it.
You should do that if
in fact, I might even advise that.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
G to the HP to the A says C.S. Lewis's last battle is lived out today in the U.S. politically and the church. Invaders pouring in. Intellectuals wanting doom but staying inside castle walls only to be destroyed. Spiritual dwarves playing both sides thinking they're safe. And few faithful fighters surrounded.
Yeah,
I'm reminded of...
painful, but I'll buy.
It's unbelievable. Like Jonah Goldberg, he actually wrote Liberal Fascism, a book a lot of people read. Hey, I'd imagine back in the day, has Jonah been on the show at some point?
Very, very early on when I was on HO, yeah.
And now he's actually writing about how small... And it's this Richmond thing too. It's small money donors in the Republican Party are ruining this thing, and we need. So he's defending, as you said, what the technical definition of fascism ultimately is, when government and private come together. Well, he's saying we need more of that. It's the big money donors that are the thing that keeps things sane, and your petty little interests are actually tearing this whole thing down. The guy who wrote Liberal Fascism is now saying, we could really use a little bit more fascism. It's amazing.
It's David French. David French's original opposition to Trump, I know, because I was talking to him back then, was his lack of character, that he would abandon biblical values and would sell out social conservatives. Now David French joins Russell Moore and they go speak at gay-affirming churches, which is another way of saying heretics. So Trump was actually the guy that overturned Roe v. Wade, and David French now speaks at gay-affirming churches or heretical churches. Same thing. Same thing. There's just a lot of people that have there's a significant number of people in this arena who have allowed Trump to break them. In both ways. Who have allowed Trump to break them so they then become what they claimed for many years they were against. I mean, you can't even get Bill Kristol to be for tax cuts now. I mean, he's not even for tax cuts anymore. Trump did tax cut, they were a terrible idea. Okay? And then you have a lot of people that have made the decision that I'll make a bargain with Trump where he helps me grow a platform to stand for very right-wing based things that we're all for. But then when the zipper gets rattled, I will then, when Trump rattles his zipper, I will say the most just incredulous things for fearless leader. It works both ways. It works both ways.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I saw people last week tweeting. The guy, the senior citizen in Utah that got gunned down last week.
Mm-hmm.
I saw people tweeting out, big name MAGA accounts, tweeting out, this is what the government wants to do to all Trump supporters. Guys, do you know who tipped off the government about this guy? Truth Social did. Trump's website tipped him off. Truth Social tipped him off that this guy was making threatening remarks. Now, I'm not here to argue, by the way, that the government loves Trump supporters. Quite the contrary. Okay, but do you see my point? Mm-hmm. But we're just going to completely ignore that. It's like Bannon. No one's done better work exposing the jab than Steve Bannon has, that I'm aware of. And I'm aware of a lot of work. No one has. There might be people that have done as good of a job as he has, but no one's done more. I think he's essentially backed all of, for example, Naomi Wolf's work, or at least partnered with her on all of that. But then never gets connected back to the guy who actually is the reason who wrote the check for all of it. We live in an era where I've just never seen more people willing to lie about or for someone in my entire life, ever. I mean, the stuff is friggin' biblical, man. I mean, it's just like, it's out of Bible stories level stuff. I've never seen anything like it. And someone asked me last night on the flight home, sometimes I'll buy the internet and I'll do like ask me anything on social media. And, someone asked me, how do you do this? How do you tolerate? How do you survive doing this? And I gave the most truthful answer I possibly could. As a child, I was verbally and emotionally abused. I was physically abused. I was often isolated. I went to 11 different schools, so I had to start all over again and reboot myself so many different times. Perfect training for this era. Perfect. Praise Jesus. That's not flippant. You're laughing, okay? I mean, that's not sarcasm. Straight up, man. Straight up. Could not have been better training for this era right now. I'm actually trying to get people to take seriously that they want to put Trump in prison. And I am called a traitor. And the people who aren't taking it seriously and are going to let him do it, they're the heroes. Makes no sense to me. But you know what? Hey, I once had a kid who was 800 pounds get picked for a basketball team over me, even though I was much better, because, of who his daddy was. Didn't make any sense to me. Didn't understand it at the time. But that kind of stuff trains you for what you're going to see later on in life. As the great prophet Jim Morrison once said, people are strange.
Next, Steve Smith. If DeSantis doesn't win the Republican nomination, him running as an independent with RFK Jr. as his running mates would be one of the few times a third-party candidate race had a chance.
I'll sell. I just don't think that would even get on the ballot.
Go back. Don't even go back to Florida. Do what you can. Pray we get another shot at this down the road. There's not.
Agreed.
You're dealing you're dealing with cosmic levels of forces that I would go back to Florida in that case.
Alexander Rogers, regardless of the cause of the Hawaii fires, the rebuilding effort will be utilized to create integrated 15-minute cities, testing what is possible in the lower 48. Alexander also adds the side note, the Maui police chief being the former captain in Las Vegas during the 2017 mass shooting is incredibly strange.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yep, that's true.
Well, I'll buy that, and it's probably what Hawaiians want anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the bluest states in the union.
Yes.
I mean, this is what they want. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard's to the right of most Republicans in Hawaii, so that's her home state. Yes, yeah. And they will count it all joy to suffer for the name, because that's religious fervor. They will count it all joy to suffer for their idols, as Christians count it all joy, used to count it all joy to suffer for their Savior. We actually go out of our way to not suffer for our Savior anymore. That's tough and hard, and gets
icky.
in the way of my tea time.
Yeah, it's icky.
It's icky. Yeah, it's icky.
Glenn Beck's Afro says,
Gosh, come on.
Top 5 war board games. Let's do a wholesale buy-seller hold.
What's next? Steve Deace's unibrow, which I do get. I mean, when I go to the barber, man, I do have to have them separate the creepy social studies eyebrow. I have creepy social study teacher eyebrows now, man. At my age, I've got to have that done. I hate saying that too.
Todd,
You didn't need to, but you did.
Todd, do you have any grooming revelations for us?
This is what I got. You're looking at it.
Top 5 war board games. Number 5, Battleship. Number 4, Stratego.
Yep.
Stratego, great game.
It's a great game, yeah.
Number 3, Risk. Number 2, Chess. Number 1, Axis and Allies.
I'll buy that.
Yeah,
to me, Monopoly has to be on the list, but I'm okay with that as a list.
It's not really a war board game, though. But then again, neither is Chess.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Yeah, maybe I haven't played the way that we played. I mean,
remember, every Candyland with his kids was a war game. You're not winning, I'm winning.
That's exactly right. Dominoes. That's right. Yes. Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor. And if you've seen some of the signs my neighbors have in their yard, yeah, that's crazy. We're talking about our title, one of our title sponsors on the show here today, Fume. And they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from the bad habit? Fume is an innovative award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural, delicious flavors. So instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories. No reason that you can't be one of them. Join Fume in accelerating your breakup with destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to TryFume, F-U-M, tryfume.com. Use the code Steve to save 10% off. When you get the Journey Pack today, that's TryFume, F-U-M, as in Mary. TryFume.com and use code Steve for an additional 10% off. Again, TryFume.com/Steve, code Steve, to save the 10% off.
Moving on to RSSLLUE. Dealing with the unerasable knowledge of Steve's revelation of his preferred choice in underwear is worse than any punishment he's ever thought of for a hold in the history of holds.
I could buy that. I could. I'm just not sure how else. It's a great underwear, guys. It's a great. I'm wearing it right now. It's a great underwear.
Sweet.
Yeah,
it's a phenomenal
also,
underwear.
I'm about the coattails. It moves product. I'll endure.
Okay.
Jeff Alkire says, when the Kraken is released on Monday, it'll be dead.
That's about.
Does anybody know why they waited to this moment to finally unleash the
I don't.
Kraken?
That's if there's a positive to all of this, it does give him a platform to definitively make this case. It does. If there's a positive to any of it, you're looking at me like, that's adorable, is how you're looking at me. Okay?
I'm thinking, where's the gun?
It does. It does give him a platform to definitively make the case. It does. Right? Because the entire Georgia case is predicated on the election was legitimate and Trump tried to steal a legitimate election. Well, if the election was not legitimate, then his actions are interpreted in a completely different context.
You know what a really good platform is to make a lot of cases?
Being president of the United States.
There it is! He got it! Ding!
Next
Can't
up.
fool you, Steve Deace!
There's that. Yes. There's that. Okay.
Next up, we go to C. Smith. It is now too late to push for a convention of states. Revival or civil war, we are in the end game.
That's really interesting. That like, was the window that narrow? Because we were at one point like, and you're friends with Mark. I mean, But, I mean, I know I was like, this is just like, you open up this Pandora's box, they come in and hijack us, and kind of because you just led, they're serious, we're not, we're going to get made fools of. But then we're like, yeah, it's Hail Mary time. And is the window already, like, did we have like one shot at the Hail Mary and now it's gone?
I still think it's Hail Mary time. I mean, I think you have to throw the pass. I think you can't sit there at the end of the game holding the ball while the receivers are downfield, not throw it and say it's too late.
No,
throw the ball, you know?
I don't disagree. If that's the Hail Mary pass, are we just like, it's to the point about your Constitution, about the Constitution. The social compact is dead. Is there anything we could write that people are like, oh, well, yeah, now we'll follow that? Isn't that what kind of maybe what this is getting at?
There are things you could write that would punish people for not following things.
Hey, talk to me.
You could do. If we're talking about writing it in lieu of a dead social compact, then yes, there are things you could do. Absolutely. Yeah.
You had me at punish.
Yeah. The question is, who has the will to do those things? I kind of think if you're involved.
No, don't. See, now you.
Let me finish.
I know there's bad answers to that one. Just swoon me with punishing.
Todd's like, for the first time, I'm asking you to lie to me. No, the kind of people that would get involved in something like a convention in the States would be the kind of people that would write the kind of things you want written. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you still have the same math. Tell me what you have that they couldn't just take away by another means if they wanted to anyway. With the lack of opposition, representation, and agency we have. Tell me what that is. There is nothing.
Right.
So this to me is the last. It still
what do you
remains,
got to lose?
Yeah, it's still one of the last remaining opportunities to play offense for us on any level whatsoever. Yeah.
Interesting question though.
It is. You're sure it is. It's probably one that ought to be asked like every 6 months to a year, just as a temperature check. I'm not saying there's never a moment. In fact, I would have told you 5 or 6 years ago, I think this is too risky. But we're at the end of the game now, and so if we have to get rid of the ball. We have to throw the ball down the field. I'm not confident it'll be caught. I just know if I'm holding the ball at the end of the game, I lose. I know that for sure.
Steve Deace Burner is next. Michigan and Ohio State will play in the college football playoff semifinal game. The victor will go on to win the national championship.
Well, I actually have in my own preview Michigan and Ohio State playing for the in the college football playoff semifinal, in the Rose Bowl, in fact. So I could buy this. It's not that much different from my own football preview that I do every year.
I thought we just said we're not going to talk about polls this early.
These aren't polls. This is having fun. We're just,
No,
we're speculating.
I will not.
It's just sports speculation, man. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less.
Sell. Just taking the field.
Next, we go to Jay Ford. Many American Christians claim to love Jesus, but America's problem is far too few of them fear the Lord.
Oh, yeah, bye.
Well, I mean, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, as I completely tangled up here.
Is the cord too short?
What's that?
Is the cord too short?
Yeah, the cord on this, the one that works in my ear that actually works, is too short.
Okay, we'll fix that.
So I have to keep fixing it. I'll have to
do
fix
it
it during
live.
the break.
Do it live.
Yeah, I'll have to fix it during the break. But yeah, I would buy this. Sure.
Amen.
That's it.
All right. We'll do the rest of these in overtime later today at blazetv.com/Deace. Daniel Horowitz is next. Every day we hear about yet another venerable brand name selling us out. Going woke. Americans are tired of it. At least what's left of Americans, anyway. Are growing tired of it, demanding the emergence of the parallel economy. It's coming, slowly. Thankfully, one place where it is fully and readily available is with your mobile phone. One product we all need nowadays. Make the switch, therefore, to America's only American mobile phone company, Patriot Mobile. All right, they will defend your values, not use your money to target them. If you're a veteran or first responder, let them know when you go to make the switch, and they will give you even special savings as a way of saying thank you for your service. For the rest of us, you can get a free activation with the offer code STEVE. And just one example of why you want to make the switch. I mean, anytime you need to switch to a different network, you've moved to a different part of town, you're moving to a different part of the country, you can make that switch to any of the 3 major carriers anytime you want for free by being a member at patriotmobile.com. patriotmobile.com/Steve is where you want to go. Use the offer code Steve to get a free activation. patriotmobile.com/Steve or call 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT. Let's welcome in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. It is good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Well, Steve, thanks to you, I've been signing 500 more books this week.
But indeed.
It's more fulfilling than anything else.
Indeed. If you want to take part in the fundraiser that we are doing for Sam Sigaloff, who was one of the individuals that we interviewed, got his own chapter in Rise of the Fourth Reich. He and another gentleman, and forgive me, his name escapes me.
Mark Bashaw.
Thank you. Are being targeted now by the system after getting expelled by the military, trying to stop them from even getting licenses to work in the private sector. So we're trying to raise money for their legal defenses. Daniel and I are donating all of our proceeds of this limited run, 1,000 autographed editions of our bestseller, Rise of the Fourth Reich, Confronting COVID Fascism with a New Nuremberg Trial so this never happens again. We are each autographing all 1,000 of these, and then that's it. And then our proceeds would be about $20,000 if we sold them out. And Daniel and I are donating all of that to the Legal Defense Fund for Sam and Mark to try to help them one more time get back on their feet. They stood in the gap for us. Now it's our turn on the home front to stand in the gap for them. FourthReichBook.com is where you want to go. Fourth Reich, R-E-I-C-H. FourthReichBook.com is where you want to go. I think we've sold about 700 of these so far, so they're going. FourthReichBook.com is where you want to go. All right, so Daniel, I believe you and I might literally be the only people in America with a platform in the media, right or left, calling for the very action that has any chance to meaningfully stop the ongoing persecution of one Donald J. Trump. Trump's not calling for it. None of his children who are active in the media are. No big name MAGA influencer is. Nobody is. And we're 523 days away from the next president getting inaugurated. Now, this assumes that Trump can dodge all of this legal peril. I don't believe he can, because I don't think it's legal. I think it's political, and they're going to put him in prison. But that assumes he can avoid prison in not one, not two, not three, four different proceedings. He can avoid prison in, and then still find a way to get elected, assuming the next election will even be legit on any level, and that he can rehabilitate his image with the normies and the independents out there that he's lost. That is, if he pulls that off, I will put a picture of Jesus with his hand on Trump's shoulder. I'll put it here on the set, because if he can pull that off, he is God's anointed, and at that point, I give up and recognize. Because that is an incredible political feat to pull all three of those things off. And yet, the one action that could be taken over the next 523 days that would have any chance of putting a stop to this would be to have Republicans in the House, even to the point of a shutdown, say, we're putting you on trial. We're not doing this. This is weaponization. This is a banana republic. This is Marxism. Americans won't stand for it. We're making the case to the American people. We're not funding DOJ. And if that means a government shutdown, then I guess we'll see in the arena of ideas. No one other than you and I is asking for this, except it's the only thing that actually has any chance of working over the next 523 days. Why? If you knew something would work that would save you from spending life in prison, why wouldn't you try it, demand it?
Steve, it's muscle memory. They serve their idol the same way they worship God. It's the one solace I've taken from the last couple of weeks, and I kind of chuckle from it because they are so used to memeing, talking, and ignoring the plays down the field on how we could influence the debate on medical freedom, how we could influence the debate on crime and the border and the economy and the Green New Deal and inflation and the tranny, all the 50 million things that we've crossed the Rubicon 100 times on, and we cannot wait until 2025 to redress. And you could, as I proposed a couple of months ago, they could stay in session in August. They could come back earlier. It would command attention. Biden's, in Lake Tahoe, Senate Democrats are all over the world. They command attention every week, focus on a different area of government, pass the appropriation bill corresponding to it, defund the bad stuff, and stand by it come midnight, October 1st. There is no other solution to our problems as well as Trump's problems. And obviously they do overlap because the targeting is real. They are targeting us. They have targeted us actually before they targeted Trump. So it does need to be redressed. We cannot wait. But Steve, the same way, they'll never call for it on the issues we should all care about. Even their guys. See, I was first insulted. I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me we didn't cross the Rubicon when they committed mass genocide and, as Ron Johnson said, created a virus, blocked the treatment for it, foisted upon us a bioweapon that killed hundreds of thousands of people, locked us down, criminalized our breathing, then had the streets rampage with murderers and martyrs. The two-tier justice system every second that you're seeing, that the people who burned down the Minneapolis police station got less time in prison than people that merely stepped into the Capitol. Officer Tao got 2.5 times as much in Minneapolis. Are you kidding me? And then it comes to Trump, and we crossed the Rubicon. But Steve, I take solace in that. We didn't cross the Rubicon. They are treating even their own Mr. Trump the same way. It's the memeing. And here's the sad thing. They're betraying Mr. Trump. See, if you cared enough about him, you'd be like, what the heck? Like you're saying, there is no way he doesn't go to prison. There is no backstop unless they know something we don't know, that there's some sort of deal or arrangement, wink and nod going on there. But if we're to take it face value, then there is no backstop. I mean, certainly to the D.C. ones, but really the Atlanta one as well, they got that jury pool picked out. There is no way you could talk about how many of the charges will be pled down or how many of the charges will be convicted on, but there's no way you don't get a minimum of prison time based off of that. But the reality is that they will be able to go ahead and meme. Imagine if Trump is in jail. Imagine the ratings for your show. You could continue doing this, and this is the moral hazard. The more ineffective we get and the more we don't force a brinkmanship, a cathartic moment, a reckoning on policy on that playing field, the more we have a good time off of memeing off the doom. Guess what? The more doom occurs. The more doom occurs, the more it juices up our ratings. It's a vicious, degenerative cycle, and frankly, I know no way around it other than at least they are treating their idol the way they treat us.
Why isn't Trump calling for this? I've worked in this business for a long time, and it's long been true on the right. There is far more money to be made, whether you're an elected official or in our line of work, in being in the minority than there is in governing. All right. The market for holding Republicans accountable to their promises is not nearly as profitable as the one in saying, but the Democrats over and over and over and over again. I get that. What I don't understand is a guy, just to clarify one more time, he cannot pardon himself as president in Georgia. I respect the heck out of Mark Levin's opinion. I know he put that out yesterday. I might even agree with it. I just don't believe John Roberts is going to agree with it. I don't think John Roberts is going to say that the president can pardon himself in a state case. But even if that's the case, he would have to navigate so many things to even get the power that Mark thinks that he can use that we just talked about. And so
he would probably spend a couple months in prison at least before
at least
then.
Just being
he would
adjudicated.
Have to win an election.
Yes. That assumes he can get on ballots. That assumes he doesn't get stripped off of the ballots he needs to get to 270 by being a prison. Because that's another case to adjudicate. Can you run for president while being in prison? Let's adjudicate that. That will get adjudicated. Okay. So you're talking. He's got to be 5 years clear of sentencing before he can appeal to the parole board in Georgia. You can't have any other. Pending legal proceedings, which means all these other proceedings have to be cleared before he can even go to the Georgia board with his 5 years up. You see what I'm trying to say? Like if he's got concurrent cases in other states, he's not eligible until those are clear, because he's not. I mean, he's 83. He's going to be 83 years old 5 years from now. Daniel, why isn't he demanding stop them from putting me in prison? I get our system. And this system existed, the religious right started off good and then became a direct fundraising machine. The Tea Party started off good and then became a direct fundraising machine. MAGA started off good and now has largely become a social media fundraising machine. This is not new on the right. The right has just gone through evolutions of grift over the last 4 decades. I don't understand why a man that's facing the rest of his natural life in prison is not asking these things. Help me understand that.
And let me just magnify that first, Steve. It's also, why is he or none of his supporters calling on the Georgia legislature to change laws that enact Florida's law giving the governor the authority to fire local DAs and local officials, and obviously changing some of these other laws pertaining it. Not that they would, given the political dynamics in Georgia. I mean, Trump has a 40% disapproval rating among Georgia Republicans. I mean, that's just the reality. So it is what it is there. But I'm saying they're not even calling for that. They're not calling for other states to give this authority. I just want to veer off a little bit. This is what the Georgia paradigm shows, is that let's say you're in Memphis, okay, and you're a white guy that had to engage in self-defense against a perpetrator who happened to be black. You're going to have the same problem, and that's a very red state, very trending red state, unlike Georgia, which is moving the other way. We need to shore that up. You need that Florida law to basically give the GOP control over the entire state. But then that would require mentioning someone that we don't really want to talk about because, it's a problem. So there's that issue. But Steve, I want to make this even stronger. There's another aspect too, because I want to make this clear. A lot of people don't realize this. There are 2 federal indictments and there's 2 local indictments, Manhattan and Atlanta. So the 2 federal ones you deal with the defund fight that we laid out and we described. Now, that wouldn't deal with the other ones, although that would give you a national platform for it. But there's another thing, too. What if he refused to show up and countenance in any way, indulge in any way the proceedings in Manhattan and Atlanta? Again, the Atlanta PD doesn't come down to Mar-a-Lago. The governor of the state has to sign an order to release the state troopers to hand over to Atlanta PD, NYPD, or something like that. And DeSantis already said he's not going to do it. I saw Tim Pool was asking this question, what if Trump wouldn't show up? DeSantis needs to do this. And I was like, well, he kind of did already, but you're a man that self-deported after he did that.
This was the argument we had with Manhattan, where people like me were basically yelling at DeSantis, you need to do this. He finally comes out and does it, and then Trump turns himself in the next day, right? Yeah.
Steve, I am not posturing. This is let's say DeSantis never existed, or he was governor, but he wasn't running for president. This is very important. We all believe that we are one door knock away from them locking us up. I do believe that. I believe that if we don't stop this, you won't even be able to grift off of talk shows because the FBI will say you are engaging in insurrection. You're calling for a war. You're calling for the overthrow of government. They are very close to this. They pick a nebulous act, and then they take your social media postings to give you 20 years more in prison. So we're just an inch away from that. I don't need the Trump indictment to tell me that, but certainly we're all told that if they come after Trump, because they never came after any of us before Trump, right? That never happened. But then they will then afterwards come after you. Well, Steve, I mean, they are going to come after us. The thing is, you and I can't tell a blue jurisdiction go to hell. He has Secret Service, and he certainly has the governor will not deliver him. So if this is really not just about him and not just about winning him the nomination, we're told this is about all of us. He is at that pivotal moment in history where he could get up there, maybe with his lawyer, give an hour presentation of debunking the charges, explaining how dangerous it is, again, widening it to the 2-tier justice system, the anarcho-tyranny, the Daniel Penny case, some of these other things with BLM, J6, giving that full presentation. This is not, this is hierarchy. It's not hypocrisy. And therefore, someone needs to take a stand. I will not do it. That is how you shut it down. They can't do anything. And in conjunction with a federal defund fight, 3 weeks worth of House control without the Democrats in town, holding hearings and then leading to a defund fight. That is how you do it. You don't do this. This is over. They are not serious. This is all a lie. And to answer your question, I believe Trump, either he's in on it, I wouldn't rule that out, or he's just so deluded that he thinks this could never happen to him. And his supporters think that too. And again, if he gets locked up, they'll have their show. But you know what, Steve? Here's the important thing. Within 1 to 3 years, they will not have that show anymore. Just remember.
Thank you, brother. That was some definitive woe and lamentation for sure. Thank you. Tired of someone else telling you where to go when you have a medical need? Are you ready to take control of your health care? Then Samaritan Ministries could be the solution you're looking for. They connect hundreds of thousands of Christians across the nation to come together through prayer and encouragement and financial support when a medical need arises. arrives. It's not insurance, and you're not limited by restrictive networks. You don't have to check to see what hospital is in your network, be concerned about the doctor being in network. No, you go to the hospital, the healthcare provider that you choose without any second thoughts, because with Samaritan Ministries, you're in control of your healthcare. And then afterwards, fellow members are going to pray for you, most importantly, and then send money directly to you to help you pay your medical bills. And when they have a medical need, you'll do the same for them. True Acts 2 here. That's what biblical healthcare sharing looks like. Check it out today at SamaritanMinistries.org/Steve Deace. SamaritanMinistries.org/Steve Deace. DEACE. Once again, that's SamaritanMinistries.org/Steve Deace. Just going to let that final word from Daniel just kind of linger as we close this out. We're going to stick around and do overtime for subscribers at BlazeTV.com/Deace. For everybody else, we're going to take a long weekend for the summer, and then we'll see you again on Monday. Until then, John 3:17.